Finally, the be-all and end-all rating for Mage. That is at 8. At 8 is enlightenment. That is a measure of your aptitude with magic. Also kind of a measure of your power. Not in the way of how much you can pump out, but how effectively and efficiently you can use it. Arete is, well, when you start the game, every mage starts with 1 point of Arete, and then they can use any points they garner from their freebie points or their merits and flaws for extra freebie points to get it up to a 3. Now, it's important to remember that you can only have a number of dots in a sphere as high as you're at 8. So if you only have 1 dot in at 8, you can only have 1 dot in any sphere. Period. And what it is every time you try to use magic and put together your effect, you find out what your difficulty is, usually based on what spheres you're using and what you're trying to do. And you roll your at 8 in dice. Remember, it's White Wolf, so it uses all D10s. Standard difficulty for most things is a 6 or a 7. So, you roll your at 8. Say you have 3 at 8. Roll 3 dice. Anything that's a 6, 7, or higher counts as a success. As long as you get 1 success, usually you pull off some magical effect. That's nominally the way it works. The problem comes in increasing it. You see, like all things in the storyteller system, it's not just a matter of plugging in numbers and experience points and getting them back out. You need to find a way to be taught that. Usually by somebody with a ranking higher than you in that. But at 8 is even more involved. You see, when it comes time, and it's time for your at 8 to go up, you usually undertake like a vision quest. Since this kind of enlightenment only comes from within, you're quite often faced with tough decisions and quandaries. You have to take a look at what you're trying to do, what you're trying to become, where you've come from, and what's holding you back. And your DM, storyteller, sorry, very used to D&D terminology because of my past few years, your storyteller is to adjudicate this, and in the end, decide how well you did. It really shouldn't come down to a matter of rolling dice. This is about decisions that you make as a character. This is about standpoints you take as a character. It's not just, oh, plug in the points, there we go, we got it, we're done. Yeah, you can do it that way, but I think that's doing a disservice to the system. So instead, you find yourself caught making decisions. Sometimes it's making very, very hard decisions. Sometimes it's about sticking to convictions. It all varies. But in the end, if you succeed, you get your extra point of at 8, your experience points are spent. If you don't, the really jerk storytellers will say those experience points are wasted. In my opinion, the better ones will basically suspend those experience points. You can't develop your spheres or your at 8 anymore until you unlock that, because you've tied yourself up in it. And after a certain amount of time, the storyteller should run it again for you, give you a chance to try again. This is part of the storytelling of Mage. It is the learning yourself and learning what you need to do to become what you need to become. Now, this said, I have seen a couple of players pull off absolutely amazing characters with very high Aretes and never having a sphere higher than 2 dots. Using coincidental as hell magic to augment themselves. You're fighting somebody, trying to take them down, you take a moment, you use your life magic to scan him, you find out, oh, he's got a bad ankle or a bad knee. And then you try to take it out. Maybe you use that life magic to augment yourself a little bit, make it a little stronger when you hit. Maybe use a little bit of entropy magic to make sure you hit right where you need to. And you do the job. That's the funny thing about Mage. Sometimes getting to the higher levels of spheres means you get a little ahead of yourself. You start doing ridiculous things just because you can. And that leads to paradox. And paradox explosions as it resolves in you. That, to me, is the fun of the Mage system. It's that knife's edge gamble. How far will you push it? How far will you see what you can pull off? Till in the end, you find out. Oftentimes with disastrous consequences.